To Real Deal Sports Talk, it's me, KP, welcoming you back on this Wednesday, October 19th, 2016. Alright, everybody, thanks for tuning in tonight. Glad to have you, glad you could be here. We missed hanging out on Sunday, we missed talking on Sunday. Could not do the show. My dog got very sick, was throwing up for near 24 hours, and we had to deal with that here. So, sorry I missed you guys on Sunday. That's why we did not have a show Sunday. But we're back at it today. We'll cover everything we were going to cover Sunday. We'll cover what we were going to do today. We'll get it all in. The show is packed. I might be talking fast, but we're going to get through it. It's going to be fun. Now, let's just jump into it before we run out of time, shall we? All right. College AP poll. Let's get to it before, this weekend's games start. AP poll top 10, Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan jumps up to the third spot because Clemson, they struggled this week with NC State. They pulled it out, but they struggled. Clemson at 4, Washington moves up to 5 with all those points they're scoring. Texas A&M 6, Louisville 7, Nebraska jumps up to 8, Baylor moves into the top 10 at 9, and Wisconsin rounds out the top 10. You would ask me at the beginning of the year, I would have picked, 4 of those teams. 4 with, I would have had Wisconsin in my top 25, probably Baylor in my top 25. Washington would not have been on my top 25. They were not on my radar like this, not like they're playing now. Louisville would not have been on my top 25. Nebraska might have squeaked in on the back end. But as far as top 10 teams, I would have had Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan, and Clemson in my top 10 for sure. Don't know where, but those are teams at the beginning of the year I definitely saw having good seasons and could have predicted a little bit of their success, not completely. So that's the top 10 right now for the AP poll going into this week. We'll see how that plays out. We got the DC 3PO college football kickoff on Saturday morning with Chris Rupert from thedirtcannon.com. So we'll talk to him about that. Maybe we'll talk to him about the chances of the local CU Buffaloes winning the Pac-12 South, as I read about today on Bleacher Report. We'll have to see. But we'll get to that on Saturday. Today's show. Let's talk about the NFL and how they got trolled this weekend, okay? The NFL put out a new policy, a new social media policy, that teams cannot put out clips of the game during the game. Doesn't matter if it's your team, doesn't matter if it's your game, doesn't matter if it's your highlight. You can't use any of that footage and put it on Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, anywhere else during the game. So what do some of these teams do? I don't know if they got together and talked about this. Don't know if the media relations people amongst the teams are on some kind of an email group. But a few of these teams, specifically the Browns and Eagles, got together. I don't know if you guys saw this. If not, check it out on the Facebook page. We posted the videos. They made paper cutouts, toy football, little players from, the electronic football game. A little paper football on a stick moving through the air, and they did their highlights that way. They did it of an interception return for a touchdown. They did it for kickoff returns. To me, it had me rolling. I was laughing hard. That's a good way to get back at another stupid rule, because you wrote up contracts of exclusivity of your product with these stations to get the billions of dollars so you could fatten your pockets. It's a business deal that doesn't work. It's silly that the NFL can't offer a package like the Game Pass, except you can watch them live. It's your games. You're the NFL, and you can't even broadcast your own games on your channel or on your services because of the way you worded your contracts. Silliness. So, good job, Browns. Good job, Eagles, trolling the NFL on your social media. And the other teams as well who got in on it a little bit. That was great. Had me rolling. If you guys haven't seen it, check out the videos. Wow. Aaron Rodgers. Have you guys been following Aaron Rodgers? Have you been watching what's going on? This is one downfall of playing the quarterback position. And we've talked about this on this show before. The quarterbacks get all the credit. They get all the accolades for the wins. And then it's always their fault when something's not going right if you can't blame it on the offensive line or position group, right? That's how it works. Even though every position in football is dependent. They say the quarterback position is a dependent position because your receivers have to catch it. That's true. But guess what? As a receiver, your quarterback's got to get you the ball in a position you can catch it. He's got to not get you killed. Coming across and leading you into a defender who's ready to just light you up. You have to have the blocking. You got to have the play fakes. Everything has to work for it to work. See the Carolina Panthers this season. It's not because they lost Josh Norman. It's not clicking like it did last season. We've talked about that on this show. Last year, well-oiled machine. No turnovers, very few mental mistakes. Won the shootouts, won the close games. Defense came on strong late in the year during the playoff push. We thought some of their front seven were going to turn into all pros, and we don't even hear their names this year. And that's not because Josh Norman left town. It's just not clicking this year. They're pretty much the same team. But this guy, Aaron Rodgers, right now, he's not clicking. He's got the lowest completion percentage in the NFL. People are now questioning his ability. He's got former players like Greg Jennings coming out and throwing shade at him, saying he doesn't self-assess and he got too much hype from the media and was considered better than he was. And look, he is still, in my opinion, even though his numbers aren't there right now, the best quarterback in the NFL. Which later I will give my opinion on why my quarterback, Matthew Stafford, is a legitimate MVP candidate for this season. And has been for a few years now. But we'll talk about that later. At the beginning of the year, I said Aaron Rodgers would be the only quarterback in the NFL. I would be like, oh, okay, if the Lions decided to make a trade of Matthew Stafford. Because, to me, those are some of the top guys right there. They're not in the legacy of the Bradys and the Breezes. They don't have the numbers yet. They don't have the years behind them yet. Rodgers is going to get there. Stafford is doing his thing. If you haven't been paying attention, we'll talk about it in a minute. He's been balling out. But lowest completion percentage in the NFL, Aaron Rodgers. Is that really a sign that Aaron Rodgers' game is gone? Is that a sign that he got too much media hype and we made him better than he was? Or is it a sign that they have no running game? Their running backs are hurt. P90X did not work for Eddie Lacy. He went from looking slim in some of those pictures over the summer to now he looks like a big old dude again. And he's hurt. He's out. They bring in Niall Davis from Kansas City. Starks is out. They lost, who was it? Their guard that went to Chicago. They refused to sign free agents in Green Bay. They want to develop everybody from within the draft and sign very few free agents ever. Mike McCarthy's system's been figured out. They did not adapt their offense. They've been stagnant. It's the same thing. Let's lean on Aaron to make plays. And that's not happening this year. Jordy Nelson does not have the full burst back, coming back from his knee injury. That will be next season. Randall Cobb has been nowhere since the beginning of last season. Devontae Adams is inconsistent at best. So I don't know if everybody needs to be talking about how bad Aaron Rodgers is playing, or more so, how bad is Green Bay right now? They're definitely not who we thought they were with Jordy Nelson coming back, and the idea that Eddie Lacy was going to be right. It's just not. And their defense is playing way better than anybody thought they were going to be at the beginning of the year, even though the Cowboys torched them this week. So we'll see. I say RELAX for Aaron Rodgers. That's what I say. Do you guys believe, and we talked about this guy maybe having his career wasted right now. Do you believe, have you thought about, would you consider Phillip Rivers a Hall of Famer? Now, in my opinion, 100% Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. No doubt about it. He's a Hall of Fame caliber player. If he would have had more complete teams, he would have a better resume than he does. If the Chargers wouldn't have blown leads, they are playing at a level right now where they pretty much should be undefeated this season, because they've led big in every game that they've blown. And we saw what they did to the Broncos. So yeah, I think he's a Hall of Fame candidate. He continues to climb up the statistical charts. He's the leader of that organization. He's what's kept them running. Similar to John Elway before they finally put a team around him at the end of his career. John Elway carried the Broncos for years and years. Those first 3 Super Bowls he went to, that was on his back. It wasn't because he had great players. Sure, the Three Amigos were fun. Sammy Winder was nice. But it wasn't until they put a complete team around him and actually, cheated with the salary cap that they were able to take his talent and use it to win a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers has not had that. They've been close. They've been real close. But I think, and I've said before, I think just about a week ago, he's one of the quarterbacks in this league who's being wasted, along with Stafford, along with Andrew Luck, and guys like that. Oh, big story here. I don't know if you guys read this, but this came out. I saw it on the Mile High Reporter. I saw it on CBS after that. But Mark Kisla, a Denver Post reporter, I believe it was Mark Kisla who wrote this article, proposes that John Elway does something bold to trade for Tony Romo, because he does not believe that Trevor Siemian is going to lead the Broncos or help them win a Super Bowl. Maybe not. Maybe he won't grow over the season and, fight some battles and win some games and lose some games and get a chance to get better, because everybody wants win-win now because they're defending champions. Patriots were the last team to go back-to-back, and that's been over a decade. It's hard to go back-to-back. But let's get back to the idea of Elway somehow getting the Cowboys to trade Tony Romo to Denver for Trevor Siemian because of the play of Dak Prescott. Prescott and Romo's numbers over the last 6 games, very similar, outside of one statistical category: interceptions or turnovers. Over the last 6 games Tony Romo played, he had 8. We all know Dak Prescott has 1. Intriguing. You now hear stories just over the last 2 weeks of the Cowboys saying, Tony Romo's our guy, we're not going to switch, or, we're not going with Dak if Tony's healthy. They win again this week. Now you hear stories, maybe we won't switch back. Maybe we'll continue to ride Dak out and see if the wheels fall off. So maybe there's an opening for some kind of big trade to be in the works. Maybe if Elway can pull off some magic, you got a Tony Romo who potentially is healthy, is a top 10 quarterback, top 5 almost quarterback over the last 10 years in the NFL. It's intriguing. He would definitely take advantage of both Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders better than the current quarterbacks have been able to.